Check. Check 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. Check, check. Good. So we got that.
Lagging. Might be a few windows up.
Doesn't end well unless it ends. You can't just report the fucking obvious.
I don't care what a critic gotta say, I got him picking up the pieces. That me, you really playing with your life.
That sounds like shit. Just a motherfucking jump. Just go. All right. Well, we got to figure out this opening and stuff because that was just fucking horrible. That's just not good.
I think that was
This
more on
shouldn't
the
be-
computer
what's
side.
that?
I think it's because I had so many tabs open. It was more of the computer itself, not the stream.
All right. I don't know what we have to do to fix that kind of stuff, but stuff just needs to get fixed so that we're a little bit smoother. That's not good. This is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy, and I am ready to go. So first up on our list today is going to be Jimmy Kimmel. A lot of talk since Jimmy Kimmel was taken off the air about free speech. I just remember when, it really hasn't stopped. And it got really bad during COVID. It got really, really bad about trying to silence people for having opinions. And then it turns out later, we were pretty much right. We were pretty much right about the COVID shot, that it was just a shot, that it wasn't a real vaccine, that it really didn't stop the virus. Because that's what we were told. We were told if you get the COVID shot, initially, that's what we were told. If you get, we didn't make this up on our side. If you get the COVID shot, you will not get COVID. And then people who got the COVID shot started getting COVID. So it wasn't as effective as we were told that it was supposed to be. It just wasn't a thing. And actual doctors were silenced. Actual doctors were threatened with their licenses. Doctors were scared to not follow whatever the government said to do. And have always been told by the left is like, well, this is between the person and the patient and the doctor, and they should be making these decisions. No, they wanted to silence all that. And it just didn't work. And just going after people, trying to shut people up, shut people down, very, very smart people that were just asking questions. And this started back in 2016 even. 2015, as we ran up to the 2016 election. That's when I broadened my horizons away from Facebook and got into TikTok and the other apps. Because on Facebook, I was getting banned for 30 days. I'm nobody. Just somebody with 5,000 followers on Facebook or 6,000 or whatever it is. That's all I was. I was nobody. But getting blocked for 30 days at a time because of things that I was saying about politics and going back and forth with people. And we know that the government was directing it. When the government directs it and tells companies what speech is allowed and what speech isn't, that actually is a violation of the First Amendment because it's the government. The government should not be involved. But they were. We had the Twitter files. There's been testimony in Congress since about the pressure that was put on them by the, government agencies, the Biden administration, direct contact. That's violating your real First Amendment rights. Tucker Carlson, he got fired from Fox. And the same person that y'all were crying about Jimmy Kimmel, was super happy about it. There's video of it, of Jimmy Kimmel talking about Tucker Carlson getting fired and cheering it on. He was all for it until that hammer swung the other way at him. And see, that puts me in a really tough spot, because I'm for the First Amendment. I believe in it. I believe you should be allowed to say things that I don't like. I also think you need to be responsible for what you say and the repercussions of that. No, I don't like the Hitler. And there's repercussions of that. But do you have the right to say it? Yes. Just because you have the right to say it doesn't mean that you should be doing it. We got to all be smarter about this. But I really don't feel bad about a guy who was on paid leave for a couple days, getting his hand lightly tapped on, because that's all that happened. Because he didn't really apologize last night. I didn't watch it. I've seen video of it, going around and heard it. But I don't watch Jimmy Kimmel. Not interested in Jimmy Kimmel. That's just me personally. You watch it, that's great. But he didn't apologize. It was, hey, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you took it wrong. That was not my intention. Awesome. And then he still tried to frame it that this guy was just a crazy guy and not from the left or the right then. And that's still not true. At first he tried to, and got in trouble by blaming MAGA and that the shooter was MAGA. The shooter was not MAGA. So it was, having an opinion is one thing, but we're talking about something that is a blatant lie. And you can blatantly lie. You can do it. But you're probably going to get called out on it too, and he did. And people weren't having it. It's just crazy that this guy can say things about other people in basically the same situation and applaud it, but when it happens to him, the democracy is going to end. That's all we've heard for 4 fucking days now. Democracy is threatened. Democracy is going to end because the president and speech, and sometimes the president just needs to let us handle it. We can do it. The people. Because I didn't like the look. I didn't like the look of the FCC chairman making veiled threats. I didn't like that either. I think that's bullshit. I know it's different. Broadcast television is different than other types because it's a different medium. They pay for the spectrum. It's regulated differently. But all of that is all being changed now because of what we do here and others do. People are changing the way they get their content, media, movies. I mean, this is so fast. I mean, it used to be a big deal when you would watch movies on a disc, right? And how much better that was than the stupid VHS tapes and remember when you could record shows and stuff. You don't have to record fucking dick now. It's already there recorded for you. You just have to type in the search and find it. And you can find everything. Pretty much. Everything is changing. They're swearing on television now. Every news broadcast I see, somebody's saying shit or dropping the F-bomb. That was our thing. That was a podcast thing. That was something you could do on YouTube. Although they didn't like it, you say, but they don't like it. But you can. It's different than, there's no fine. Nobody's coming to your house. There's no fine. You could say it. But now they're, doing it on cable news. It's a thing on cable news. And cable news is different than ABC News. It's different. So maybe some of the laws and the rules we have need to be changed. That might be a thing too. But it all has to be within the concept of the First Amendment. But I want my First Amendment right. I want my First Amendment right to say whatever the fuck I want to say and not get punished for it. Not be restricted. Because I still am restricted in many ways. Because I promise you, these networks, these social media networks, they do it as well still. It's better than it was. But let the people decide what they want to listen to. And you bear some responsibility yourself that if you just want to trust what anybody wants to say, oh, you like this person, you just want to believe everything they say, that's on you. I have never done that in my entire life. I remember as a young teenager, or not young teens, when I was a teenager and I got in trouble for the big car chase that I was in and got my driving privileges restricted to church, to school, and to work. And I wasn't getting it back till I was 18. That's what happened. And I was drinking. I knew I had a problem. And that's when I pretty much, as a teenager, sought out God on my own. I was raised Lutheran and then the United Church of Christ, which is, they've gone off a cliff, man. They're a very liberal church now. But I didn't know any different then. I knew Lutheran, I knew the United Church of Christ, and I knew Baptist because my cousins were Baptist, and I loved going to the Baptist church because they seemed to have a little more fun with their singing than we did. I don't know. I just liked it better. But my parents, there was a confirmation process similar to catechism that Catholics go through that my parents, I didn't like it, but parents kind of made you. And back then we did what the fuck our parents said. You just didn't have a choice. You just went. And I was with all the other kids that didn't want to be there, that their parents made them. Okay? And we did that. So that's all I knew. So when I was seeking out God, that's where I went back. I started reading the Bible at night every day. And then I would go to church and I would listen to the pastor. And then I would read about whatever he was talking about in the Bible, more specifically, what he was referring to. And I started to get to the point where I felt like I wasn't getting the real truth, the whole story. That he was just giving me a small little bit. Because he'd be done and I'd be like, but why aren't you talking about this? Why aren't you adding this? Why aren't you things that were important that he just wasn't getting into? So then I started seeking out other churches. Non-denominational churches, and even denominational. Look, I was going to Pentecostal church for a minute. Those are the ones that you call holy rollers. The Pentecostals, you know, that like, yeah, I was searching. I was looking for God. But I kept reading. And I figured I was a pretty smart kid. And I think, what the guy that's standing up there, is what he's telling me? Is that what's in the book? And I know you don't know who he is. Old people will know who he is. I even started listening to radio pastors. Jimmy Swaggart was a big one at the time. Really big. And, you know, the hardest thing for me to accept was people like Jimmy Swaggart who were just men with flaws. That the things Jimmy said were actually very, very good, but in his personal life, he had flaws. And when you present yourself a certain way and then the public finds out that you're not that way yourself, you come crashing down. And that's what happened to him and several others too. Even someone I was close to, and it was more local, that I found out something about somebody I was very, very close to that I believed in and trusted, and found out about some other personal relationship that he was in that just, man, that didn't seem godly, man. He was hooking up with another parishioner's wife. And I found out about it. I'm like, no way. It just totally crushed me because I really was looking to him like a mentor, you know? He's very, very smart. My whole point in all this is just really telling you that I've never just trusted without checking myself. Always checking myself. And I've always continued to do that. You need to do the same thing. You know, I got into supplements and vitamins and things like that and promoting them. I check it out because the government doesn't really regulate vitamins. And I recently found out a product that I was taking was total bullshit. That it was a creatine product that really didn't have any creatine in it. And I was not happy about it, that I had spent money on this, and it didn't have in it what it was supposed to have. And honestly, it was just a poorly made product. Just no reason for it. And why do you have to do that? Why can't you? Because I did find a company that actually makes a legit one that I'm actually taking now. So it can be done. So why do people make the fake shit? Is it more expensive? Yeah. Is there a big profit margin and just putting sugar in it and handing it off as a piece of candy? Maybe that's it. I think that's bullshit. But that product is allowed to be sold. It's legally allowed to be sold because it's also under the umbrella of proprietary blend. Always beware on supplements. Proprietary blend is not a great thing most of the time. Tell me what the fuck is in it. Period. I'll decide whether it's good or not. But tell me exactly how much. Don't just tell me a certain ingredient is in it. Tell me how much is in it. Because how much is in it matters. Most people want to do, if you're going to do creatine, you're going to do 5 milligrams, at least 5 milligrams a day. You want to know that you're getting 5 milligrams. And I wasn't getting anywhere close to that. I could have eaten that whole motherfucking bottle and not gotten 5 milligrams. That's how poorly made the product was. And now I can eat 4 of these Array Tone gummies and boom, I got 5. I don't have to drink anything. Don't have to do any other dumb shit. It's tested. It's good stuff. But I can't trust the government to do that for me because they don't do it. They don't regulate that. It's on me. Too many people are relying on somebody else to do the work. You got to do the work. Nobody's coming to save you, as we say. You got to do the work in every area. And question everything. And when you question everything, that also means you have to talk and listen to people that you disagree with. Jimmy Kimmel isn't for the First Amendment. I've seen the stats. Do you know how many conservative people, conservative-leaning people, have been on Jimmy Kimmel's show in the last 4 years or whatever? I don't even know if it's been one. I think Jimmy Fallon might be the one that's had maybe like 3 or 4. But everybody else has had 1 or 0. You know, they just don't have them. Why not? Why not? Bill Maher does. Bill Maher has them on. And guess what? His show is doing better. Yeah, it's only one night a week, but his show's doing better than these guys. More people watch it. I even watch Bill Maher. And I don't agree with a lot of what Bill Maher says, but I watch it because he's willing to talk to the other side. At least they're having a dialogue that you can hear where each get to make their points. And sometimes Bill makes a better point, and sometimes his guest makes the better point. But I get to be the judge of that. But he at least gives the audience an opportunity to hear both sides. Stephen A. is doing that. And see, the left doesn't like when these guys do that. They don't like you're platforming Hitler. Nobody wants to sit down and talk with Hitler. You've put yourself in the box that you've put yourself in by this name calling, so that how can you then turn around and engage with those people after you've raised those, you've taken it to a 10 with what you can call somebody. It makes it very hard. People are going to look at it like, what are you doing? Why in the world would you have Hitler on? I get it. So stop saying it. That'll be the first step. The one thing I like about Patrick Bet-David and his podcast is he'll talk to anyone. And he's demonstrated that. And he's invited people to his show that haven't been willing to come on. That's on them. Like Don Lemon. He's invited Don Lemon to come on the show. Don won't come on. It'd probably be good for Don to come on the show. But I bring that up because I was just listening yesterday to Patrick Bet-David interview Nick Fuentes, who's another young guy, younger than Charlie was. Charlie was 31. I don't know how old Nick is, but I think he's in his mid-20s probably. And he's got this nasally voice. Have you listened to Nick Fuentes?
I have no idea who that is.
Well, he's got this nasally, just annoying fucking voice, man. And I'm trying to find out for myself because I didn't want to do to Nick Fuentes what other people have been doing to Charlie Kirk, which is just listening to short clips and stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And making a judgment on those short clips that Nick Fuentes is a racist or a bigot or whatever. Because honestly, my initial reaction to him is, yeah, he's no Charlie. Charlie was not a racist. This dude says, I guess he stopped, but at one point, not long ago, he was regularly dropping the N-word. There's just no reason for that, unless you're just trying to be a dick and get attention that way. But he's getting attention. And so I want to know, what are young people listening to? If they're listening to this guy, what's up? Why? What is he saying that they're becoming attracted to? But anyways, he's also, I believe, very anti-Israel. And so people that are pro-Israel, they're super not happy that Patrick Bet-David had him on. But guess what? The people that are for free Palestine, they're not happy that Patrick Bet-David just recently had Benjamin Netanyahu on too. So he just upset both sides by having the conversation. But see, when you do that, I used to do that in the radio. I did this years ago, before anybody was doing this stuff. Toledo, where I came from, and the small town outside of Toledo, Genoa. But Toledo was blue. Everything around Toledo was red. So you get outside of Toledo, you're in red country. The little towns, the counties, whatever. The big cities are blue. Cleveland's blue. Columbus is blue. Cincinnati, I thought, was purple, but I guess that's moving blue too. But around Cincinnati, in the upper class suburbs of Cincinnati, trust me, it's red. And the entire city council in Toledo, except for maybe, I think there was 2 Republicans. Maybe 2. And sometimes there'd only be 1. And the mayor always seemed to be Democrat. And everybody would come on my show. Everybody. Except for 1 Democrat. And I invited him. I invited him when I was live on air many times. And I demonstrated through my interviews that I wasn't an asshole. And some people were not happy about that they wanted me to be more of an asshole. They wanted me to hammer on these people more. What I did was have a conversation. What I did was ask good questions. And then sometimes they would give answers that some of us wouldn't like. And it's okay they didn't like it. If you don't like the answer, or if they avoid answering the question, that's an answer too, isn't it? You're smart. You should be smart enough to figure that out. And I was just trusting that you in the audience could figure it out for yourself. I'm going to ask, they're going to answer. It's up to you. That doesn't mean I didn't do follow-up questions, but I also wasn't going to be a jerk in such a way that they'd never come on the show again. Where's the value in that if they won't come on? I want you to hear it from their mouth, what they believe. And I did that for a long time. I remember Bill Gates' dad wrote a book. I interviewed Bill Gates' dad. He was an attorney. I did get it. He was only on once. Obviously, not necessarily the type of guest you can have on more than once, right? But it was funny that he was on the side of being a rich guy, being kind of tax the rich kind of guy. Mm-hmm. And he was rich. So I just kind of threw it to him, send a check. If you don't think you're paying enough, send in more money. You're legally allowed to do that. And you know that legal tax deduction that you took? You don't have to take that tax deduction. There's no requirement to. You're legally allowed to, so why wouldn't you? From a financial perspective, it would seem dumb not to. Why would you want to pay more in taxes than you're required to? But if your whole premise is you're not being taxed enough, then stop taking the tax deductions that you're allowed to take. If these tax deductions benefit the rich, put your money where your mouth is. Step up to the plate first. Why do you need a government law to do it for you? You can just volunteer to do it. He didn't have good answers for that, of course. But that was great. I loved doing that shit. But look, you guys got to figure this shit out yourself when it comes to the First Amendment. And you got to listen to, this has got to work both ways. That's why I wasn't upset. I didn't like what happened with Jimmy, but I wasn't going to feel real bad about what happens to Jimmy. And you know what else is still true? His contract is still coming up in the spring. And if you look at the history of Jimmy Kimmel and his audience, guess where it goes? It goes like this. Like this. Every year he loses viewers. Why is that? And pretty much all of these late night hosts that have, instead of being comedians, have become left-wing mouthpieces, all of them, their audience has gone, all have gone down. And didn't Greg Gutfeld just went on, from Fox. Greg Gutfeld, his show is doing fantastic. I think he's doing the best late night. And Greg Gutfeld was on Jimmy Fallon. And I think Jimmy Fallon's numbers went up that night. But Jimmy Fallon needs to do more of that. See, there used to be a law that we used to argue about that if you were network TV, if you had a viewpoint on from one side, you had to give the other side equal time. Well, they wanted to enforce that back when conservatives were kicking their ass on terrestrial radio. They started going after people like Rush Limbaugh and things like that. And then now, nobody's really been enforcing that. And so they don't talk to him at all. It's just, so basically, if you have a guest on from the left, you don't have to have them on at the same time, but you have to have, on the same show, but you're supposed to have another guest on with an opposite point of view. That's how that stuff is actually supposed to work. That's why I said, look, it's different because now there's so many platforms for everybody to get your word out. Jimmy Kimmel was free to do this. And guess what? Unlike me, who's building from zero, Jimmy Kimmel could go over to podcasting and start with, I don't know, 1 million at least, maybe more. You would think he could get 1 million initially, right? Subscribers tuning in. And he could monetize it however he wanted. He could get sponsors from however he wanted. He could monetize it differently. He could decide he doesn't want sponsors because he doesn't want people to tell him what to do. Because sponsors don't like when you say controversial shit and they're advertising on your program and it's going to affect their business. They don't like that. And so what your job is, what the job of the late night host used to be, is you'd have a funny 5-minute, 7-minute, maybe monologue where you're making jokes of everybody. And then you're going to have rock stars on, actors. And what actors would you have on? Well, what movie just came out? Or what movie is coming out? The actors would all make their rounds to all the shows. And then they were competing. Who could get this actor first? That was a little fight they would have. And that's fine. That's what it was. People, you can't say people don't like that stuff because People magazine is still in business. I still see tabloids. I don't know who buys that shit, but I still see tabloids when I check out at Fry's, right? They're still there. So people like the Kardashians, right? You say whatever you want about them. There's some people that like them. They like that kind of stuff. So you want to hear, what went on behind the scenes at the movie? How do you feel about this actor that you worked with? Those kinds of things. That's what the sponsors wanted. They just wanted eyeballs and to advertise their product. But when you get very political, you're stepping into a different realm. If you want to do that, try to find a job that you can do that. Try to talk to people. Why can't your agent make a phone call to MSNBC and say, you know, Jimmy really wants, this is, you know, he's done the comedy thing. He really wants to go in a different direction now. And what he's doing now really isn't for late night TV. And he wants to present his point of view in more of a news or opinion format. And would you be interested in talking about him maybe having a program on your show? Or like I said, doing his own thing. You know, other podcasters out there are hiring other people as they're growing. You know, Megyn Kelly is hiring other people doing other podcasts. So she's taken her show, built an audience, and now she's, you know, making it more of like a network, other shows, and paying those people. You could do something like that. I mean, it's not like if this guy doesn't make money for 6 months, he's going to be in financial trouble. Not when you're banking $16 million a year, right? So he should have the money to build and do this if he wants. He doesn't have to worry about it. And then if he just wants to talk to liberals, he can do that. I don't think it'd be good. I think he's going to fight, because what if the other ones that are doing well, what if they found out? What if Stephen A. found out? He does better talking with both sides. Bill Maher, better, both sides. At PBD, he knew that from the beginning, talking to both sides. Doesn't change, you know, his views. He gives his views. And he gave that Nick Fuentes a pretty fair chance. I'll give him that. I still not... Nick Fuentes is somebody I'll continue to listen to some of the stuff to finish forming my opinion, but not somebody that I'm likely to particularly like. Maybe that could change, but I doubt it. That's just not my message or something I want to be associated with. Because to me, that is getting into things he said. Yeah, I don't want to have to defend Nick Fuentes. I don't. Charlie, I'll defend. Because I just know in my heart, from what I've heard and listened to over and over again, that Charlie was not a homophobe. I've listened to specifically him talk one-on-one to gay and trans. I've listened to him do that. But do you know who is a homophobe? Do you know who we just found out really is? And to me, a true racist and bigot, people can say things, but just because somebody says something that's racist or not, what kind of power does it have behind it? And if it doesn't have any power behind it, fuck them, right? Really, fuck them. But if somebody's a racist and they have power, that's a different animal. That's the one you should be concerned about. The one that's racist that can, and you can be applying for the job and not get it. Solely based on that. I'm talking about Kamala Harris. She is an anti-Semite in the worst way. She is a bigot against Jews. She is a bigot against gays. And she admits it in her fucking book. she's going on a book tour being called out on it and trying to cover up. No, bitch, what you said, yes, if a Republican said what she said, you would immediately call them a homophobe, racist, bigot. Immediately. No question about it. Why isn't the same true if they're from the left? So she talks in the book about picking a running mate specifically. And Pete Buttigieg became the mayor, remember, of South Bend, Indiana. And I don't know if South Bend is red or not. I know Indiana's red, but South Bend is a decent-sized city, but it's not. It's probably more like Toledo size, you know? It's not Indianapolis. It's not big. So, but I don't know. But he was elected there. He ran for president. So he thought he had to determine whether or not was this country, is it worth it to be a gay man and run for president? And he thought he would have a chance. And I don't agree with Pete Buttigieg's policy prescriptions. But my feelings on Pete Buttigieg are solely based on policy. Period. If he had conservative policies, I would have no problem voting for him, even though he's gay, married, and they adopted a kid. I'd have no problem doing that. Because my thing is policy. Kamala Harris specifically said that she didn't think America was ready for a gay vice president. How crazy is that? Especially after, in our recent history, we've had a black man as president and her being a black woman vice president. And you're going to say you're all about representing all people, but you're disqualified. Her only disqualification of him was being gay. It wasn't that he had different policies than her or something like that. It was solely the fact. That's being a bigot. Is there any other way to define that? You think that's bigot?
I have no idea what a bigot is, like the actual definition is. But I'll go ahead and agree with you.
Why does it? Oh, you said bigot. It was pulling up cryptocurrency.
Did I spell it correctly?
No.
B-I-G-E-T?
OT.
O-T. Bigot. Yeah. See.
Right? Pretty much. And then she didn't. I guess she had slightly a reason. She was worried that, see, I think if there would have been an open primary, somebody like Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania could have beaten her. I really do. Because she wouldn't won. Somebody that run against her would win. It wouldn't have been her. But if Josh Shapiro had been one to do it, he probably would have won. She's worried about maybe him outshining her if he selected her. But the reason that she didn't pick him after disqualifying Pete Buttigieg because he's gay is because Josh Shapiro's Jewish. And then we get Tampon Tim. Somehow she thinks it's a good idea to Pete Buttigieg is more man and manly as a gay man than Tim Walz is a man. Tim Walz is like I said, he's effeminate. He's light on his shoes. He's they brought it up. He's weird. He's just weird. And he was horrible. He did nothing to help her. Nothing. But that's somebody that is a bigot with power. She had the power to add him onto the ticket. And I think if you ask most right-leaning political strategists, every one of them would admit and say that Pete Buttigieg would have been a much better running mate for her. Now, they still may think, well, Trump would have still won anyways, whatever. But they still would think that, and actually that would have been good for Pete Buttigieg, because if she lost, the loss would really be on her and not him. And so in, 2028, when he's likely to run again for the Democratic nomination, that would have been good for him. So it would have been good for the party overall for her to have selected him too. That would have been smart, but she did. She didn't. That's real homophobia there. That's real bigotry there. Not Charlie. These people so often, exactly what they accuse us of, they are. And they literally demonstrate it. It's there for you to digest and judge for yourself, because you certainly don't have to believe me. I'm nobody. And I just got done telling you. Challenge everything. I want you to think, I think Troy's full of shit. I'm going to check this out myself. I want you to do that because I want you to check it out yourself and come to your own conclusion. But Jimmy Kimmel made no real apology. The other station owners, like Sinclair, they're still not airing him. So this still isn't done yet. But maybe this, I doubt that it will be. But I hope this is a wake-up call for some on the left that if you truly want to defend, and even us on the right, that if you truly want to defend the First Amendment and free speech, then you got to stop censoring us. Because what did they just do? So they're against cancel culture, right? They're against cancel culture. They're mad that Jimmy Kimmel got canceled. And so what did the left-wing lunatics do? They started canceling their Disney subscriptions and canceling Disney. You use the threat of canceling when it's something you don't like. But when it happens to you, you whine like a little fucking bitch. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. The rest of us are over it. And we're just going to call you out and laugh at you like the clowns that you fucking are. All right, so Trump went to the UN yesterday. Totally crazy what happened there. Unbelievable. And you know it can't be a coincidence. And I'm referring to the president as he's going into the UN. Melania is with him. They're about to get on an escalator. And as soon as Melania steps foot on the escalator, it stops. And you can see her jerk forward. Because you can imagine when you get, you know how it is getting on an escalator. You're expected to move you and all of a sudden stop and it's going to throw you off balance. Glad she didn't fall. She grabbed the rail real quick. And so they walked up the escalator. All the other escalators were working next to him. They didn't get off and go to them. They walked up it. But I guess there had been jokes somewhere reported by the Times not the New York Times, the Times, that some employees or somebody had been talking about this and doing something like this. It's just fucking childish, is what it is. And then Trump, when he's going to speak, all of a sudden his teleprompter's not working. So both of those things happen, and it's just a coincidence, right? And I guess there was even trouble with the mic or the sound and the level of the sound for a bit. We have a president, whether you like him or not, who can talk off the cuff at any fucking moment, anywhere, and take any question. And if you think you're going to throw him off by doing, you should know better that you're not going to throw him off. That's so stupid to even think that that's a potential possibility. It's just dumb because it didn't happen. You didn't throw him off. And in fact, it makes it look even more impressive. Joe Biden couldn't have done this. He couldn't have stood there that long and go through the list that Trump did of taking down country after country and calling them out for the frauds that they are at the United Nations. I don't even know why we still have a United Nations. I don't know what they do. Except that we fund, I don't know, 75, 80% of it. We fund that shit only to have other countries be able to come here and bitch at us because they want more money. It's always about the money. Seriously, I do not know what the UN actually does anymore. What good have they done? What problem have they solved? I don't know. They make up climate change reports that are bullshit. Remember back in 1990 when in 10 years we were supposed to be underwater because of climate change? The world was coming to an end in 10 years. We're 35 fucking years after this shit now. But Trump doesn't believe in science because he doesn't believe in climate change. No, he believes in climate change. He believes it changes all the fucking time because that's how Mother Nature motherfucking works. It's always changing, as it's always done for millions and millions of years. You want to see what climate change does? Climate change brings Appalachian sand to fucking Arizona and creates red rock that's beautiful. That's what climate change did over millions of years. Used to be an ocean right there. It's not ocean anymore. So I always joke, we have everything California has but an ocean. We used to have one. And you know what? It wasn't man that fucked it up. Man didn't change the climate, or man's activity did not change anything because we weren't here. And it changed anyways in powerful, powerful ways. So the impact, we are so not that fucking important other than to God. We are so small, and we can pollute. We can damage an area, which I absolutely don't want to do. That's what's within our control and what we should focus on. You know what we should focus on? Because fuck the climate change. How about we get together and we got these spots in the ocean that have all this garbage, miles and miles of garbage floating, like a little island of garbage? How about we just go clean that up as a world? How about we do that? That sounds like a good idea that we can all get behind. Something that's doable. But you want to change the fucking temperature? The fucking temperature's always changed. It never made sense to me. You had a global ice age. What melted it? Something had to melt it. Something had to change because something had to change to make it cold enough for that to fucking happen in the first place. Yeah, that's not, I don't know, not science, just common sense. Do they not have common sense in science? You got to start somewhere with a hypothesis, right? Isn't that where science starts? You make a hypothesis, and then you try to set out and see whether or not that's really true or not. But you can't rig the game because you were rigging the game. You were rigging the information to make it come out the way you wanted it to come out. Because if you did it the right way, and we have the emails for that, if you did it the right way, it showed, oh, it's not really showing that. Oh, wonder, we were wrong. But we don't want that to get out. Because if that gets out, then they'll know it's a scam. Because what is it all about? Money. Follow the fucking money. It's about money. And Trump took that down yesterday while he was at the UN. He also, while he was there, he was asked a question because if you don't know, as an American, I think it's good to know that Russia has been flying into NATO nations' territory, airspace. And what that means, because we're a NATO country, if you go after one NATO country, you go after us all. That's the agreement. You fuck with one NATO country, you fuck with us all, and you fuck with the United States. And so basically, Trump has given the go-ahead now that when Russian planes enter Polish airspace, they should shoot that fucking shit down. So you motherfuckers that wanted war with Russia, here you go. You wanted it. We're continuing to move in that direction. You didn't want to support the president trying to get Ukraine and Russia to make an agreement. Well, you won. There's no agreement. And Trump's moving towards Ukraine. Me personally, I don't want to fight with Russia because I don't give two shits about Ukraine. That's why. And that hasn't changed for me. I can have disagreements. I don't have to agree with everything the president says or does. I understand why he's doing it. Doesn't mean I have to like it. I don't. I also don't like Russia, trying to test us. I don't like that. I didn't like it. I didn't like it when, there was a time I remember, I think it was Syria, when Obama made a red line in the sand, and he said, if you do this, we're going to do this. It was Turkey or Syria or something like that. And if you do this or you do that, we're going to do this. And then they did it, and we didn't do anything. That's just bad. See, if you're not going to back up your words, don't say it. Just don't say it. Don't draw the red line. But if you're going to draw the red line, then you got to be ready to do it. That's what I've said. I said that it's not any different than an individual fighting. There's a line. And at what line are you going to do something? And we'll have to show that. Did you happen to see my Facebook encounter with the protester?
Yeah, we watched the video.
Did we watch
yesterday,
the video? We did.
or on Monday.
Monday we did. All right. Yeah. Like that, you have to be ready. I was ready. And if you haven't seen it, go see it. And if you're not following me on other social media, follow me on Facebook, X. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok. I'm fucking posting everywhere, man. I've been a madman. I'm either talking to a client or working on content. And Leo's been working on content. He's given me a bunch of clips that I've been using, posting up here, like this, that you can see all over. Yeah. I'm hitting stories. I'm hitting reels. I'm just going to be fucking everywhere until something hits.
Caleb wants to ask, where's your accent from?
I have an accent?
What are you saying? He's been saying quite a bit
Yeah.
but
My accent is from Ohio. I don't know if there's an Ohio accent. I often get asked if I'm like from New York and shit like that, you know,
Really?
just being Italian and
Gotcha.
stuff, more of a New York type of thing.
Mhm.
So I don't know. Maybe that's it. But I've never thought of myself as
I've never heard of an accent coming from you either, but
See,
apparently someone else.
We just think the rest of you have accents. That I am. I am an Ohio farm boy. Suburbs, farm, whatever. I'm a little bit of everything. And I can be anything, do anything, and still be authentic. I'm original in that way. So, yeah. I was really impressed with what the president did at the UN yesterday. I have not seen or watched, you know, what the crazy people think about what he did or said. But for the president to do what he did and do it without a teleprompter again in such a meaningful moment at such a big time with what's going on in the world, I don't ever want to hear you talk about him and his mental capacity again. Shove that motherfucking shit up your ass. I do not want to hear that shit anymore. Just be honest in that you don't like him. But stop with the shit about him and, you know, it's just not true. And who cares if he has a little limp in his leg or a bruise on his hands? Fucking dude's in his 80s. Of course he has a bruise on his fucking hands. It's a thing when older people get older and their blood gets thinner. So, I already mentioned the PBD. So then we have, this is just crazy what was going on already this morning. That at a Dallas detention center, as they were transferring some detainees, there was a shooting. Initial reports had that maybe an ICE agent was hit, but I guess that's not the case. So we'll look here and see what the latest update is. See what we have. I just think, again, you have Governor Newsom just signing in and signing a law that and poking at ICE agents, saying, what are you afraid of? And taking off their masks. But a state doesn't get to make laws about what federal agents should do. But this is why. This is why. Because people want to dox them. People want to kill them. Already they found engravings. That must be a thing now on all these people with shootings. They're taking the time to make, you know, messages and put them on the bullets. And so they did find anti-ICE message on these bullets, or some of them. So do you want to tell me again? You want to tell me, is this MAGA? Is this MAGA shooting? Who in MAGA would engrave something on a bullet that would be anti-ICE? This is, again, the left. Over and over again. It's not the same on both sides. One side is dominating this kind of violence. But just because both sides have done it, both sides have not done it to the same extent. It is a serious, serious problem. But you've basically, on the left, all the hierarchy on the left have said that these are like Trump's, that ICE agents are basically Trump's Nazis, right? That Trump's little group of Nazis and whatever. And so what do you think is going to happen? They've tried to take out the president at least twice, maybe 3 times. They just took out the man who contributed the most, besides Trump, to him being reelected, and somebody who has been very strong and was beginning to explode even greater. And you didn't stop that growth. That growth is happening right now. But who was actually killed? Was it just the shooter who was killed and he shot himself?
Yeah, I believe
All right,
the shooter.
Dallas police said one person is dead and 2 people are hospitalized with injuries after shooting this morning at the ice field office in Dallas. Homeland Security, Christy Nome, earlier said the suspect died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, which all these cowards fucking do, by the way. They always shoot themselves. Homeland Security Secretary said multiple law enforcement officials told CNN the person killed was a detainee. So the shooter, so actually 2 people are killed. One killed himself, and the person who killed himself killed a detainee. And how stupid is that? Here you're trying to say you think this is wrong, and you kill one of the people you're supposedly protesting for, and you kill him. How the fuck dumb are you? 4 individuals that were shot, 2 of them deceased, including the shooter. DPD quickly was able to locate the shooter who was deceased. Is there anything after that? Oh, that's that whole quick story.
Yeah, it looks like they've just been kind of
So much for violence stopping. So much for that. How soon till we see something from... dude, it's got to be... somebody has had to have said something already about guns on the left. Somebody on the left has had to find a microphone somewhere and has to be blaming guns. When it's really you whack jobs on the left. How about we blame them? How about we blame the whack jobs actually doing the shooting and the killing? For once. So we've had somebody that's gone into a crowd with a knife that's killed people. We've had multiple incidents recently over the past several months of people driving into groups of people and trying to kill them with a car, right? So we've had guns, knives, and cars used in trying to kill people. Do you know what the common denominator was? The nut job. That's the common denominator. That's whose fault it is. The car didn't go hunting for people to... The car didn't just take off. The gun doesn't shoot itself. But some people can't recognize where the blame needs to go, which is just insane to me. Look, I'm just going to do what I do and do this knowing that I'm doing God's work and what God wants me to do, sharing my experience, strength, and hope with y'all. I really, really believe that God has been sending people my way. I didn't ask God for a sign, but he's been giving me signs. I think it's almost better when you don't ask God for a sign and he does it. Because inside, that's how I've been feeling. And I've been starting to share that, man, am I on the right track here? Am I making an impact? Am I improving, somebody else's life? And I got a message yesterday from a woman that I've known since I was a junior in high school. And we're not close, really. I dated her girlfriend when I was in high school. But we've seen each other over the years. Back when I was in Toledo. We'd run into each other, whatever. We're on each other's Facebook. But to be honest, her content doesn't pop up on my feed very often. And if it does, I might like it. But, vice versa. But I'm not really going to searching it out. And she messaged me yesterday because another young man who was in his 30s, name was Jeremy. I met Jeremy some years ago in AA, in a men's meeting. Because I loved men's meetings, man, because I could cuss in men's meetings. They don't like you to cuss in AA with women around. But anyways, and Jeremy and I, we lifted together, even worked out together. You know, I've given him advice. From then on, I wasn't his sponsor, but I was somebody he looked up to like a big brother. And he would thank me from time to time. And sometimes he would avoid me because he knew what the answer would be. He'd already know what I was going to tell him. That I would be the one giving him the tough love. And if he wasn't ready to hear that tough love, he might avoid me for a minute. But then he'd always come back around and share with me. And I knew that what he really wanted was that tough love, and I'd give it because he had given me permission previously to do that, and I'd give it whether he asked for it or not. You're going to get an opinion about what's going on in your life and whether you're not to work and get your shit together. And share my experience, how I've been through it, how I didn't have my shit together, and what I did to be better, do better, stay sober. Well, yesterday morning he was... And I know if I looked on my phone, and I haven't done it yet, to look back and what the last messages were. But I know within the last couple weeks, if not the last week, we've messaged each other. And yesterday morning, he was driving his girlfriend's 2 kids to school, and he was in a head-on collision, and he was killed. And the kids survived, and I think they may have some broken bones, but the kids are okay. Thank God. But she told me she knew I'd want to know, and it was only within the last year that we found out that, you know, I knew her, I knew him, he was her cousin, but we didn't know that we all had a connection together, right? It was, I think, on a Facebook post that maybe I saw her name or she saw mine. Like, how do you know Troy? You know, how do you know her? Like, so she'd know I'd want to know because Jeremy would talk about me to her. And I appreciate that feedback and hearing how much, you know, influence I had and a difference. I wish I could have made even a bigger difference because this young man had incredible potential, and I just don't think his potential was realized. And that's why, at my age, why I'm not stopping. Yeah, I've had all these fuck-ups and done good things and done shitty things in my life, and it's gotten me to where I am. But instead of just trying to find a smooth ride out, I'm going at it harder than ever. Because I want to make a difference. I really want to make a difference. And messages like that, and I've been getting several of those, not that people have been getting killed, but messages that I haven't asked to receive, but people are just out of the blue messaging me and sharing with me and thanking me. And then I got another one yesterday from a woman who I helped her husband with testosterone replacement therapy, and he was having difficulty with his doctor. And this is probably goes back maybe about 4 years ago or so, at least 4 years ago, maybe 5, but at least 4, that we first started talking with each other and I started helping him. And actually in the beginning, we butted heads. And we're almost about, you know, fuck you, yeah, fuck you, whatever, you know, go on your way. I don't need this shit. But I know my stuff, and he appreciated that I knew my stuff. And we made up and was nothing but love and respect after that. So a little over a year ago, I don't know if it was a year and a half now, it's been a minute, he committed suicide. And I remember her telling me, And then just yesterday, she might be occasionally one of the 5 people that actually listen to the show. And I appreciate her very much. But just yesterday, she just wanted me to know that what I was doing, that if John was here, John would be proud of me. John would be all for it. And John and I had actually been making plans that when I would get to Nashville, before he committed suicide, we had been talking that, my daughter lives in Nashville, I'll be coming that way, that we'd get together, I love being able to meet people face to face that, it's crazy, the relationships that I have. And actually fairly close relationships with some people that I've still not yet met face to face. And so I do like to do that. But it was just another out of the blue thing. Hey, I wanted you to know this. And that's just kind of reinforcing what I've been saying over the last couple of shows and me trying to be more focused on my purpose. And so that's going to continue to be a part of this that I'm going to share, that God presents opportunities to me that if you don't like me, you think it's crazy that I swear and do the shit that I do, that's all okay. I know how God uses me. For a fact, I know how God uses me. And I know that he brings me into places with people who likely wouldn't listen to a lot of other people, because I'm not for everybody. But I'm also this way. When I got to AA, I needed hardcore. I needed to be called out. And you never like it when somebody's telling the truth about you in that way. Trust me, it's not fun. But I knew I couldn't get better or stay sober unless I did. And I was willing to do anything to get sober. Anything. Because I had failed staying sober on my own. With my own willpower, I had failed over and over again. And I was tired of paying the price for it. And from being a younger teenager even, when I knew then that I was an alcoholic, I just didn't want to surrender. Even though I believed in God, even though I believed in his son, Jesus Christ, I didn't surrender to the will of God. And struggled with that over and over again. But as I mentioned in a Facebook post, I never left God. Well, I left God. He never left me. That's the way it really was. And I don't know if I really ever left him, but I would try to ignore him for sure. And that never worked in my favor. It never worked out well. I would always wonder, God, why can somebody else do this and get away with this and this, but I can't? Why can't I get away with it? Why can't I have a drink? Why can other people be fucking drink and be normal? I can't. And just finally had to accept that. And then it was about accepting responsibility in everything. I'm hardcore. Taking everything on and blaming yourself for everything so that you can fix it. And I'm going to continue to do that and share that, but I did want to let you know, it was rough hearing that yesterday. Rough hearing about, kids that were hurt in the accident, but glad that they're okay, not, that they didn't get killed. That would have been, I can't imagine. But all of these deaths have made me reflect on myself and in my own very smallness. Because that's what it is. It's small. and that we're here for such a short period of time. And man, you know what? There's nothing I hate worse. I'm actually sleeping better now. The doctor added another new medication, and because I got turned down by my insurance company for a particular medication, but whatever he's given me now, it seems to be working. I'm actually getting some restful sleep for the first time in a long, long time, which is good. I don't like having to do that for sleep, but not sleeping is not a good thing. But I hate sleep. Literally, I hate, even though I feel I need the rest and take the time to do that and recover, I hate it. I wish I was bionic and could go 24/7. That's my feeling about it. Because I feel such the shortness of time. And I'm so grateful to God that he's given me the 57 years that he's given me, because Charlie didn't have 57 years. My friend Jeremy didn't have 57 years. And pretty much almost every time he messaged me, I'd be like, you need to get out here for a few days. You need to get away from the bullshit back in Ohio. Get away from that life and the people around you, some good, not so good. You need to get just out from under that for a few days. Come visit. I got a place. I got a place you can sleep. If you're a friend of mine and you come, you have to worry about one thing and one thing only: showing up. Just get yourself here. Drive, plane, whatever. Just get here. We'll feed you. We got 3 vehicles and a motorcycle. You need a vehicle to go somewhere on your own? Have a vehicle. Not giving you the vet, but you can drive Dawn's truck. We will give you a vehicle. And we're going to go out and have some great dinners. You've been out with me for a great dinner, right? We're going to eat good. That's what we're going to do. We're going to not go to a good place because you don't have the money. We're going to go to a good place because I do. Because I want it. I want to share that. I want to share that with my friends that are in my life. This isn't just for me. It's just for me to have the money and just sit by myself and eat? Where's the enjoyment in that? Fuck no. Let's go. My friend Mike does that too. And I love that about him. We just order the menu. Fuck, bring everything. Let's feast like kings. And because we just don't know. And it's crazy how that's been for this past, year now. It's so heavy on me. So heavy. About how little time we have. And that we only have today. You're only promised today. What plans you make for tomorrow don't mean shit if it doesn't ever get here. This is the most important time you have in your life, is right now. And so how much of it do you want to spend on the past? And that's why we forgive. We forgive so that we're not dwelling on the past. If you don't forgive, you're always going to be thinking about that thing in the past that somebody did to you. That's why you forgive and you let go. Because I promise you, Erica Kirk did not forgive that killer for him to benefit from the forgiveness. Even though she said, I forgive you. That was for her. So that's what I'll end there for today. But more of that's going to come, more of when that wraps into something we're talking about in the journey, that I can include God, that I can include, my story about getting sober, because there are so many people that struggle with that, with addiction and sobriety. But you're always going to hear the toughest stuff. And I was, just so you know, I'm toughest on me. I love you guys. Check us out again. Instagram, Facebook, IG. I already said. X. That's the best places to message me. I will respond. God bless. This is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy.
Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces. That mean you really playing with your life. I'm about to come and run it all back. I'm the new era, about to snap back.